What is up, homies? My name is Felix and I'm here back again with another video for you all today. And in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make complicated, complex kind of drum patterns. And this is something that I kind of see a lot of people get wrong or struggle with because of a few different reasons. The first being, this is not a thing that you hear a lot in mainstream music because of the fact that a lot of times rappers like to hear beats that are a little bit more simple so that they can have space to flow on, put ad-libs on, do whatever other kind of stuff they want with the beat, and not have the drums and the other stuff in the beat kind of crowding up the space. And then another reason is kind of that you have to really know when to use a complicated drum pattern. So basically my kind of method of thinking is like, if you have a very complicated melody or just a melody that has a lot of layers and a lot of stuff going on, a complicated drum pattern is not usually going to sound good with it, because at that point it's going to take up all the space, it's going to make your beat sound very chaotic, very crowded, and a rapper or singer or whoever will probably not be able to use that beat. So yeah, basically today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make complex drum patterns, and I'm also going to be giving you guys like some general, drum tips, hi-hat tips and stuff like that. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and make sure you guys check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud. Those will be down in the description below, along with a playlist of songs I've produced, my beat store, my Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out. And also, one last thing, there's actually a new Don Uzi song out now, produced by me. If you guys want to go check it out, it sounds like this.
I'm on a roll, let's get it. I'm on a roll, let's get it. She wanna go, I'm with it. She wanna go, I'm with it.
I personally think it's pretty good, and you guys already know that me and Don Uzi usually make some fire songs together. So yeah, now we can get into this video. Alright, so here we are in FL Studio, and I have this little melody going on because remember, like I said, you don't want to have too complicated of a melody when you're doing these complicated drum patterns. So here's how this sounds. So yeah, just a super simple 4-bar pattern there, and I might extend it a little bit more later on once I make the drums, but for now I'm just going to keep it like this. And now I'm pretty much going to just drag in like a bunch of drum sounds, and from there we can take out certain drum sounds, add in certain drum sounds, and when you're adding drum sounds, you want to make sure that they fit together. Okay, so as you can see, I collected a bunch of drum sounds here. We have quite a few. So the first thing that I'm going to start off with is the clap. So the clap's pretty easy. We're just going to, do our normal routine here like this. And now I'm going to copy this pattern into the snares, but I'm going to add like some bounce with the snares and stuff later on. And now I'm going to fill in the hi-hats, so it sounds like this. So now that I have that, as you can see, I have a second hi-hat here. So with this one, I'm going to do fill each 4 steps. And now this is going to add a little bit of a different bounce. And now I'm going to add in the open hi-hats. And the open hi-hats I'm going to put, I think, here. So a pretty common pattern with open hi-hats is either putting them right before the claps or right after the claps, and that's kind of what I did here. Is I just put it right before the claps, and then right at the end here I just added one after the clap to give it a little bit of variation. And that's kind of one thing, is that you don't want your drums to get too repetitive, and I'm going to show you that later on. Is that we're going to make a couple different variations within the layout portion where we make certain stuff unique to make it different and keep it fresh and stuff like that. Now that we have this, we have a little bit of a basis for like where we want the bounce to be. So one thing that you don't want to do is just cram everything together. Like, you don't want to just be like this, because that doesn't really give it too much bounce. The one thing that you really want to focus on is maintaining like a good bounce, a good rhythm, while still having your drums be pretty complex. So a lot of the time it's going to be super simple stuff, like for example adding this second hi-hat where we did fill each 4 steps. Just that right there is a pretty small thing, but it adds a whole lot to the beat. As you could hear, it changed the whole bounce and it made you, nod your head a little bit like this. So yeah, you want to make sure that you keep a good bounce without overcrowding things. So I'm going to put in this percussion right here. And then I want to have some sort of like ch-ch right after the clap with the percussion, kind of like this. And now what I'm going to do, instead of finishing the last 2 bars with the percussion, I'm going to move on to the hi-hats, the main hi-hats, so we can add some hi-hat rolls and stuff like that, because I want to show you guys specifically how you should do your hi-hat rolls for this. So an important thing with keeping a good rhythm and a good bounce is making sure that all of your percussive little instruments and stuff flow together nicely, and your hi-hat is another percussive instrument, so you want to have the hi-hat rolls flow together with the other sounds. So you want to treat the hi-hat rolls as if they're another percussion sound. When I listen to this, I'm going to hear for where it would sound good for a hi-hat roll to like lead into something else. Right there could be good. We could add one like here. And then I'm also thinking at the end like this maybe. But I want these to be a little bit closer in like this. And then I'm going to turn them down a little bit. Also for right now, I'm just going to turn off the chords because we don't really have a bounce with these chords that we need to match our drums up with. But however, if you are making your drums to a melody that you've already made that has like a little bit of bounce to it, you want to kind of make sure that you match up the rhythm of your drums and the rhythm of your melody, because otherwise it's not going to sound good and they're going to sound like they're two separate things. You want them to sound like one whole thing. You want it to sound like one whole beat as opposed to like you just throwing drums on top of a melody. But anyways, now that we've completed our first 2 bars of the drums, what we can do is delete all these and then just kind of copy it over, because we know that we're gonna repeat a similar pattern for the next 2 bars, so we can just copy that over. And then also another thing you can do to add some bounce is bring the velocity down on every other hit here of the hi-hats, and you can just ignore the rolls. But yeah, bring these down like this. So now I'm going to go in with the percussions on the other 2 bars and do a similar pattern, but I'm going to make it different. And then I also added these snares in here because it fit the space and kind of filled out a little bit more of the bounce, I guess. Alright, so for the other 2 bars, I basically just copied the same pattern over, but with just a couple slight variations. So right here, how I have this like with the percussion, I changed it here to just this percussion twice. And then also I added that percussion in right here, and then I added 2 snares right here. And I think I might add a 3rd one like this. Actually, what I'm gonna do is add a little bit of a snare roll, but like a better one. So I'm gonna go like this, and then turn this down, kind of like that. Alright, so we're getting to a good point in these drums now, but I'm gonna add this little Nextel chirp thing. And I know this is a pretty overused sound, but I know a lot of you who make complicated drum patterns like to use this. So I'm gonna show you how to use it properly. Here's how to use it properly. Just put it in there once. Don't be going like this or something with it. Just one time in there will do it, and maybe even have that play only once every 8 bars or something like that. And even so, I usually like to put a little bandpass filter on it so it's not like, you know, too basic. But anyways, now I'm going to add in the kicks, and for the kicks, you don't want to overcomplicate it. You don't really want to add any like rolls with the kick or anything. You just want to keep it pretty basic, because at this point you've probably already filled out a lot of the space with the other percussion, so you can just add, you know, something like this. And this right here, this super basic kick pattern is going to be pretty much fine. It's going to be all you need. And I'm going to turn the velocities up. And then now I'm going to copy this over, kind of like this. And then at the end of the 4 bars, I'm just going to change this to look like this. And this is just going to add a little bit of variation right there at the end. So yeah, now we're going to have this going on. So now I'm going to do the 808. So I'm just going to copy the kick pattern in here and then line it up with the ghost note. And then I'm going to hit Control L so that they go like that. And now it's going to sound like this. And now I'm sure a lot of you are thinking like, oh, well, it's supposed to be a complicated drum pattern. Why don't you show us how to do 808 slides and fancy stuff with your 808s? So, the good thing you asked, because I'm about to do that right now. So essentially, I'm going to add in a couple little 808 slides. So the way you do that, you can just press S on your keyboard, and then it'll put down a slide note. And now I can just go like this. And that sounds good, but just like anything, you want to make sure you do not overdo it with the 808 slides. I know a lot of people will go crazy with their 808 slides and do stuff like this. Okay, not gonna lie, I did that as a joke to kind of exaggerate how people do their slides, but that sounds kind of decent actually. I'm not gonna leave this, I'm gonna tone it down a little bit, but if you like how that sounds, you can add some stuff in like that. Just make sure you don't overdo it is what I was trying to say. Alright, so I just finished the little 808 pattern here, spicing it up, sprucing it up a little bit. So the 808 with the drums are gonna sound like this. Basically, I just added like a couple changes in pitch at the end of each bar, and it sounds pretty nice. I added like a slide here, and then I didn't add it at the end here, but I just added a couple extra little notes that went up an octave higher. So yeah, now that we have this, I'm going to play the melody with it. So I think that sounds pretty nice, other than being like a little bit muddy because we haven't mixed it or anything yet. So yeah, that's essentially like the meat and potatoes of this video, but there's a couple little extra things that I'm going to add in here. I'm going to show you guys how to add some variations and make your patterns unique to keep the whole beat, you know, fresh and nice throughout the whole thing. And then also I'm going to add a couple little extra hi-hat rolls. So with these are just going to be small hi-hat rolls that are just like, you know, tiny little percussions, the same way that I told you guys earlier to treat your rolls like they are percussions. And I'm just probably going to add in like 1 or 2. So I'm gonna add in one like here, I think, and I'm gonna make the notes like pretty squished together, but I'm gonna have the velocity curve be like that, kind of just like this. And then I'm just gonna copy it over here, except for I'm gonna pitch it down. So yeah, just listening to the beat and kind of comparing the hi-hats to the other drum sounds, I think this is all I'm gonna add. I'm not gonna overcomplicate it, overcrowd it, or anything like that. And then also another thing that I kind of want to add, just to show you guys, you know, some ideas that you can do, is I'm going to add in a little, I'm gonna add with the percussions, a little like triplet right here. And then I'm gonna turn the velocity down, I think, like a little bit of a staircase looking thing. So yeah, right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna split all the tracks, and then I'm going to probably lengthen the melody a little bit, because this video is not about melody, it's about drum patterns. But yeah, I'm gonna lengthen the melody, lay it all out, and then I'm gonna show you the last thing I have to show you, which is adding some variation within the actual beat. Alright, so I just laid out a little bit of the beat, and I added some more melodic components. And now what I'm gonna show you guys how to do is just add a little bit of variation, so that your beat stays fresh and this drum pattern that you've made does not get too repetitive. And this whole process right here is actually pretty simple. So as you can see here, we've got our drum pattern just repeating. So basically these 8 bars right here is where I want to differentiate the drums, because I switch up the melody a little bit and I want to have the drums match that kind of vibe and that tempo. And I'm gonna look at like what we can take out without throwing off the rhythm too much. So if I were to take out the hi-hats like this, that kind of throws it off a little bit too much. We want to keep the same flow going, but what you can do is take out these percussion sounds, and then you can even take out the open hi-hats if you want to as well. So now it's just going to sound like this. So now we have a much simpler drum pattern, and for, you know, the average listener, they're not going to even know what you did here, but they're going to be able to hear that there's some sort of a difference when it transitions from this to that. So yeah, basically that's a pretty simple thing we can do. And then another thing I like to do with these type of beats is go in here to the main hi-hat pattern, right click, and then just do make unique. And now we can go in here and we can just delete all of the rolls and everything. So yeah, now we have just a simple 2-step hi-hat pattern. And now this is gonna add some variation as well once we take out some other sounds. So let's say for this one we can just leave in this sound, and then we'll also leave in the second open hi-hat, but we'll take out this. And then we can also make this snare pattern unique like this, and have it just be the snares that match up with the claps. So delete these like that. And now this is just gonna simplify the pattern a little bit more. And once you start adding a lot of unique patterns and stuff, what I like to do is change the color of them. So you can right click, rename in color, and then just change the color. And now this will be blue, so you can tell what it is at a glance. And then also what I wanna do, because I noticed that this snare roll is playing quite a bit, this one right here, I want to have that play less frequently, so I'm just going to do make unique right here on this first thing, and then just do like this maybe. That doesn't even make too big of a difference, but it's just going to keep everything fresh and nice. And I'm going to add that at the first 4 bars of every 8th bar. So you can also do what I just did there with the making the pattern unique with any other instrument that you want, but I just did it with the snares, and I usually like to do that if I have a snare roll in there, so that the snare roll isn't playing like every, 5 seconds, because even to the average listener that can get a little bit repetitive, and remember, we don't want this to sound repetitive in any sort of way. So yeah, this is pretty much going to be it. If there's any other things that you want to add in, maybe like you want to add a simpler 808 pattern, or you want to add in some more kicks at some point, you can do whatever that you think might sound good to make your beat more unique, make it sound fresh and not repetitive in certain points. Whatever you feel like your beat needs is what you should add. And like any one of my tutorials, take it with a grain of salt, because it should be up to what you think is the best and what you think is going to sound good and sound nice and dope and swag and awesome. But yeah, so that's pretty much going to do it for me in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you guys were able to, gain a little bit of knowledge on how to make some complex, complicated drum patterns and make them fit into your beats and your melodies and all that stuff. So yeah, make sure you guys check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud. Those will be down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I've produced, my BeatStorm, my Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out. You're more than welcome to if you feel like it. And I will see you guys next time.
I'm on a roll, let's get it. I'm on a roll, let's get it. She wanna go, I'm with it. She wanna go, I'm with it. I'm on a roll, let's get it. I'm on a roll, let's get it. She wanna go, I'm with it. She wanna go, I'm with it. She